Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case. Today I'm sharing with you a very interesting video in regard to Noah and Jack Newton licking the cream off Noah's body, setting the record straight and doing a deeper analysis on the full footage from the house, the surrounding, comparing it to whether it is linked to the party house or not, because there's never really been any clarification. Could it link? Is it on one of the key days? Could it be a Friday, which has never been documented or publicly aired before? Or could it be a bigger misunderstanding like the Soccer Dad Avery TikTok account, in which people jumped the gun upon that and thought it was all from the party, including a fat ginger cowboy? And that is just an observation. So it's about getting things under control, which other humans have failed to do so. Continuing that consistency, that frequency and depth. So welcome if you're here during the live premiere. What you'll also see today is looking at a theory, an idea in regard to the murder aspect, or more so a form of foul play, but also incorporating the sudden trend of multiple steps, different events which total the overall injury sustained to Noah's body. It's interesting how ever since Tim Daniel gave his own theory, an idea, a more recent new one, it set off a shockwave of other people doing the same thing, but opposition, and opposition that will not give credit or acknowledge Tim Daniel. So it seems a little bit interesting. Maybe it's just a coincidence, but the timing is kind of key. So we'll also be comparing that to what had been mentioned by an expert, because people do like to say experts suggest this and that, and it might support their own theories and ideas, but there are some alternative separate experts that think differently, so we can always refer back to that. It is from a Reddit post page today, so if anyone throws their toys out the pram, tough shit. Because at the end of the day, people are quite okay in using either my content, my screenshots, comment sections from my videos and premieres. I'm always aware that there are people lurking in the background, those that may not quite get on well or quite see eye to eye of me and this channel, but it's of their interest though to be monitoring and watching and making comment elsewhere. So it's only right that I do the same thing at the end of the day. If you are watching right now, for those watching in the background, make sure to use the live chat box on the right hand side of the screen if you want to share your thoughts and live reactions, and you let me know what you think of the entire situation on the case and what we're focusing in on today. At any point later on towards the end of the video, and for those watching on catch up, if you have any questions, if you have any answers, any observations, you've picked up on anything which I did not, if you want to include a timestamp too, you're welcome to do so by leaving a comment down below under the video. By sharing your thoughts, your discussions, your ideas, your video suggestions, it can help push the videos out so it keeps the case alive and more people get to see it in terms of the reach aspect. If you would like to watch my recent videos and previous ones, if you've missed out on anything, don't worry. You'll find it all top right corner where the I symbol is up there. Click on that, get the drop down box with the full playlist and some loose videos too. If you want to support my channel, there is a direct link down below, PayPal link in the pinned message by me at the top with channel membership as well. The order of how we'll do things today is we're going to jump in with the video footage. I'll give a bit of context before the video plays, just so you know, and I will replay the video back twice in case you miss anything. Backstory as well as to how I interpreted it originally. And then we'll look at the screenshots which I took from the video and break it down bit by bit, analyze the building, the house, the structure, what's inside, what's present. Does it differ? Is it similar to the party house in any way, shape or format? And even if it was, does it link to the actual weekend, the actual date, time of that specific party, and not like some random old one, okay? And then compare to some additional screenshots as well, and then move on to the Reddit post. So, with that being said, the origins of when I first came across it, and you might be wondering, what video is it exactly? So one where a person is like Panning the camera around, then there's a dining wooden table, chairs scattered about and stuff on the table itself. And I made a reference to it last night, which I was going to use as a comparison, but maybe it wasn't needed and not applicable. But now we can use it more so. The video showed Noah Presgrove flat out on a table, topless, with kind of like black looking shorts and wearing a similar style hat as what you may see of him at the party. So it's within reason, and it's totally understandable why some people could have assumed that that footage of Noah on a table, topless, black shorts, or looking like black shorts and a similar hat, could think it's from the party, and at the time which Noah attended, the final party which Noah was seen alive at, until what was going to happen to him later on. So yeah, it's understandable why people could make links and think it is. Jack Newton was present but stood up beside Noah. Jack Newton bends down and starts licking up whipped cream off Noah's body, messing about, laughing and joking. You look at Noah's facial expression, body language, he's really laughing, having a good time. People on the outside looking in could think, ooh, that's a little bit weird. It's a little bit erotic or something. Who knows? It's one of those situations where, like with many activities in this world with whoever those connections are, when you're looking at it as the outsider, you're going to interpret it in a certain way, and that's understandable. It makes sense. I agree. Because when I look at myself, I'm thinking, it's a little bit like that. But to them, could be normal. To the people gathered around, could be deemed as normal. I think what we can take from that video, what I've described, it appears to be from a party. But the real question is it the party? And is it the party house relevant to the time? If it was, well, very interesting. Because when you look at the environment and what's about, there's more to it than compared to other days of footage, what we're seeing from Kaden Pressey's point of view. Take in mind limited angles and footage to compare with. So do the best one can. But, you know, there is a hybrid aspect. Because when it came to Avery, her TikTok page, she posted a collection of memories, like a memory video. Well, it just so happens that this Noah Presgrove clip with Jack licking the cream off has been described as a memory video of Noah, in memory of Noah, which can mean an archived, an old retro video from the past, not directly from the party itself, but before that, like months ago, years ago, which shows happier times, positive moments, a memory video or even a photo slideshow to honour and acknowledge a person who's no longer present. So it can be outdated old footage, but if it just so happens to be from a party and the same people are present and similar clothing is worn, it's understandable why others, without the context, would think that it's probably linked to the party. Is it still possible? Well, the hybrid nature with Avery's TikTok video on her page, which was a memory collection, but not to honour Noah Presgrove, but just to honour the month, the year of 2023, which showed clips of from a party to another party to a get-together, walking around a store, outside in a car park in the dark, riding a fat ginger cowboy, piggyback more so. And it's like a collection of videos all over the place with all different types of people, not all on one day, not all on one night, not all in one location, but just all brought together. Videos from 5 months ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, just all rammed into one as a compilation, and that is it. The exception, though, there is, it just so happens that there is some party footage from the party house, but whether it's from the actual party date, as in that weekend from Friday, Saturday, Sunday to Monday, Labour Day, right? From the 1st to the 4th September. In terms of that particular party weekend with that date, is that associated with Avery's little clip of Carter dancing or wafting an object and then someone bent over in front? Well, in terms of the analysis, what I've already done in my videos, I can confirm it's from the party house and it is of a party taking place, but is it the party, the one which Noah attended? That's kind of unknown of. So the hybrid nature is you can have some footage here and there which is outdated and not relevant to the party, but it is footage of a party and from the party house. So you've got to be careful in understanding and interpreting it, because mistakes and misunderstandings can come about. In the past, historically speaking, there was claims, and there might have been a time where videos were posted of a party and it was in the dark, and people just jumped and assumed that it must be the party and involving Noah. And it showed footage of a fight, it showed someone getting attacked, beaten up, group attack. Oh my goodness, is that Noah Presgrove? No, it wasn't. It was old footage, it was outdated, it wasn't of the same people, it wasn't of Noah. It was like some random party footage at some point in the past. So what that means is someone somehow has found it, maybe from social media, maybe it was passed on, and they thought it was a good idea to post about it, and then other people listen, look up and believe. Yes men, yes women. May have originated on the army page, definitely came from Facebook in general though, and people just go along with it up until it's debunked and ruled out. Just like how people from, if you want to call it the dark side, had debunked the compilation video of Avery, the ginger cowboy guy, etc. That wasn't from the party. It was just a collection of random videos all brought together. But I did say there was that one exception of near the kitchen area that is of the party house, but the date is not given. So it's kind of a mystery, that part at least. But whilst things are debunked and cleared up along the way, it might be on Facebook, but is it on YouTube? Has it been spread about, the word, the message? Because if you want something clearing up, by doing it in one place, that is not good enough. If you're that serious about clearing it up or clearing your name, setting the record straight, you know it's the internet, it can spread like a disease. If there is misinformation or disinformation, a mistake, it can spread and just go about all over the place. You think you've cleared up the original source, the origins, the root of it all. You've cut the head off the hydra so it can't reproduce anymore and it can't spread. But you're mistaken, because strands and variants have already gone elsewhere and expanded and then forming even more and spreading and duplicating. So yes, you target the source, you set the record straight, you clear it up, but then you've got to send a message. You've got to send shockwaves which reverberate and expand elsewhere where it has been targeted, where it has caught on, catched fire, plagued another place. Just one action in one zone isn't enough. You need to spread the word or do what you can. But should you have to do that in the first place? No. But if you're willing to go so far, how far are you ultimately willing to go? To clear your name, to clear someone else's? See, when I've been on the receiving end of stuff, I've done it on YouTube because that's where the problem has been. And most part of it, the problems have remained on YouTube and just expanded from channel to channel. False rumours, claims and all that rubbish. I did my response videos, I set the record straight, crystal clear, as usual, Mr. Consistent. And then in terms of personal representatives, other viewers and outsiders that come along, they can watch and they can simply pass the message on themselves to other people. And that's exactly what happened back then. And did it work? Yes. So the same can happen once again. But of course, if you're dealing with multiple platforms, do you have a voice on multiple platforms to get your point across? Well, in some way or another, if you're already on Facebook, you got that platform, you set the record straight. You want to come to YouTube, set the record straight, the most consistent channel covering the case, where you simply come here. Freedom of speech. It's something that seems to trigger Justin Roy, freedom of speech, but it is what it is. Because as much as people may be on the receiving end of stuff, which they do not approve or appreciate, they at least have the ability to reply back. So you see before and after. You see the claims made and then the response by the appropriate individual. You're getting the full story. Oh, is it easy just to block the original problems and block the original people? You do realise the worm effect will take place. You cut a worm in half and then two duplicate. You block an account, a second one will show up. Maybe a fake account, maybe a default one. And what good does that do? There are always exceptions in regard to blocking and cleansing, of course. Some people just need to be left unblocked so they can be monitored and tracked. But at the end of the day, to some extent, you may want things blocking, but it will not ultimately end the issue at your end, right? Whatever's going on is going on. If you experience claims and attacks and comments and stuff like that, you always have the chance to respond back appropriately to set the record straight, such as on YouTube, such as on Facebook. But it just so happens on Facebook, there have been times where people have been called out or attacked. Someone tried responding back, the one on the receiving end, to set the record straight, to defend themselves, and they couldn't even do that because they were blocked from that said platform, or more so that said page or group. So then they had to do it in a different group and then ask people to pass the message on. Yeah, not exactly efficient, is it? So when people are found to be in that situation, at least when it comes to here on YouTube, for most part of it, freedom of speech, so you just defend yourself. Give and take, see before and see afterwards. But it just so happens that some people, when they do try defending themselves, they just fulfill that self-fulfilling prophecy as labelled by original people out there. As in, people defending themselves don't respond back the correct way. They end up just going all over the top and very, very, very reckless without thinking they'd do it to themselves. That's very unfortunate, but it is what it is. So how does this all link back to the issue at hand and the focus of today? Well, it's the focus of how videos from a party, which may involve the same people at times, people interpret it as, well, it must be from the Noah Presgrove case and it must reveal and show something. But does it really? Because what appliance would it have on the case if it doesn't actually link to the date, the time of that said party? It's a completely different one, an outdated one. You can still, though, monitor and measure the body language, the relationships and the connection, the quality and the health of it between said individuals like Jack and Noah Presgrove. Whilst at the party, there might have been some arguments back and forth, but the footage, what was the atmosphere like there? Whether it's from the party or something completely different. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, the location, the time, the year. If the same people are present, you can use that to compare and contrast. Are there any similarities, any big differences, any abnormalities? What's the relationship status, the friendship status, right? Is it healthy? Is it good? Is it tense? Are the laughing and joking, is it loose and light-hearted? Because if it is, and if it is a party where there's probably likely alcohol, does it not mirror the footage, what we've already seen from the party? That consistency. And when there's consistency, it makes it harder to think that same said individuals or similar ones could do anything to Noah Presgrove under those circumstances, right? It's not about completely debunking it or completely reinforcing it, but just adding it in there as an ingredient to measure and work out how does it impact and change the case. So my original interpretation of this footage, which I'll show you very shortly, of Noah on the table flat out, topless, with Jack nearby licking cream off, because the original video wasn't given context, but it was a memory video, but it was a reflective, retrospective look. It's not live, it's not a snap, it's not in the moment of the party, it's a party, which may or may not link to the house. That's how I interpret it more so now. But at the time, not as much context. The full clip I don't think was quite present, but it was on Facebook. It might have originated on the Army page, and some people, well, really, not enough people questioned it, and then others just went along with it and said, oh yeah, that's from the party. Ooh, that's disgusting. Ooh, that's a bit creepy. That's a little bit dodgy when it comes to best friends or just friends in general, and male licking cream off one another. What's going on there? Ooh. And misunderstandings, but at the time, it felt like it made sense, but it didn't when looking back now. That when Noah Presgrove was written on and you saw the back of him, that white Sharpie pen, but in certain lighting, because it looked shiny and it looked thick, the texture, you could be mistaken and interpret it as whipped cream. And then there may have been a bit more writing on the chest area on the front torso, which looked like whipped cream, but supposedly turned out to be a Sharpie pen or a smudge mark, and that was it. But when you look at footage of whipped cream on Noah's body, and it looks like the same colour, the texture, the same shine, you could be mistaken for applying it to the footage of Noah being written on. And just based on that similarity, you could just instantly assume that, well, because that whipped cream looks like whipped cream in the party footage, then this outsider footage could link to the party itself, and it's all on the same day, the same night, and so on, maybe. It's understandable how it could be mistaken. And there's not enough context, and it's not cleared up, and it's not debunked enough at the time, well then it's open to interpretation, and you can think of it however you want, and that's what I did back then. But we do need an update, because when there can be an update, when something can be cleared, that's exactly why I do these videos. And then we can fill it out with some additional stuff. So I appreciate people's patience, of course. Without further ado, let me play you the video right now. Take in mind, there's not going to be any volume. It's going to be muted because there is background music within this memory video, and I do not want copyright. So it's going to be quiet, but I'll play you the video twice, and then we'll begin to analyze. After reviewing that footage, it might be crystal clear that the layout of the room looks drastically different, and the colour tone as well, and even the appliances and the positioning of it compared to so-called footage what we've seen from the party. This particular layout of a building appears to be from a different house, in my opinion, but whilst that's just my opinion, we still might as well acknowledge everything that we see in view. There's no harm in doing an analysis. So quite a decent sized kitchen. You got the countertops as well. Similar coloured countertops maybe, but the colour of the wood, different shade to what we've seen at the party house footage from such as Kaden Pressy's point of view inside the lounge area pointing towards the kitchen. And even the footage what we've seen of Noah, the girls dancing about, and in the background you see some of the appliances. It does look different what's present here. The layout of where the table is moreover not closer up, and there's just more depth, more room in this particular kitchen itself. I mean, it's a bit of a random observation. I could be wrong. Like when you look at the oven back there, just above it, there seems to be like a marking on the inner wall area. It might be a stain, it might just be a pattern or a photo. It's hard to tell because it's very blurry, but it does look like the letter N. If by any chance it was an initial, it could mean Newton, the Newtons, the Newton family. Could this be Jack Newton's house or Caleb Newton's house? And there was a party there at some point? Maybe. Just worth acknowledging. And to be honest, just in general, even if this isn't from the party, but it's an older one, was alcohol present? And if so, was there a call to arms with social hosting? I wonder. Because if it is older, the footage, it means that the people could be even younger under their age. So is there a call and cry to arms here for social hosting to be followed upon and justice? Oh wait, no, because if this is old footage, at that time, supposedly there was no death, so people can look the other way. Yeah, it's interesting that picking and choosing when and when not to report something, to some extent. That chair looks awfully low to the ground, but the back of it looks pretty tall. Maybe it's just a camera angle perspective. It looks mainly clean, like a normal kitchen, what you would expect, in some extent. As for the flooring, it's like a shiny tile surface. Similar, though, in terms of the party, which now attended at the party house of Avery, Carter's and Logan's, that had tile flooring, I believe, that it went onto carpet within the lounge area. See, the way where this table is, you could argue and say, well, maybe the table was moved about. What you see in Kaden Pressy's footage, it's behind the sofa in the background near the Christmas tree, whereas here it's different. Well, first of all, we don't even see a Christmas tree. And from the angling of this, you see a TV in the corner, but associated with Kaden Pressy's footage, or more so the memory one of Avery's birthday girl, her TikTok page, Soccer Dad, in which it pans over into the distance of the TV. In the background there is a doorway. There is no doorway present back there, so this appears to be a completely different room and likely a completely different house, right? But the same said individuals are present from here to the party. The table itself that's some thick wood. I mean, you look at the legs There's tables, the shaft of the tables, wooden, really big, thick shaft from all four corners. Really sturdy, hard wood, probably quite heavy as well. But what's on the table? Well, once again, unfortunately, it's very blurry. There might be some milk on the table, some bits and bobs. Is there any sign of alcohol though? Because, you know, this is not to say it's directly from a party, or it is a party. It could be a small get-together. It depends how you define what a party is. A group of friends just hanging out. As for who's behind the camera of this, who knows? I mean, if it was posted on Avery's TikTok, you could argue and say, well, it must be from Avery's phone, but it doesn't mean to say that Avery is the one recording it. It could be another person. And if it was Avery, does that mean it's at Avery's home, which would be the party house, which Noah attended, or is it at somebody else's house? Could it be at Stevie Howard's house? No harm in asking these questions, because I'm sure someone will have the answers. Anyone from the dark side, if you want to clear it up in the live chat, feel free to do so. And if you have already, don't be pulling your hair out, because this is a pre-recorded video. I'll only know later. But we make it as clear as possible, clear up footage, reinforce or debunk it, making it easier for the future. So when people stumble across it, they won't be led down a false sense of security or lies, like however reckless people have done so on Facebook. Better standards here, of course. Can we get better quality up close? Well, we can to this extent. So when zooming in, you've got some kitchen roll, kitchen towel beside on there, stood up. On the left could be cornflakes, a cereal box. On the right, some smaller boxes, whatever they are, maybe a bottle of water, and then behind it, near to Noah's head, the cap, there is a bottle of squirty whipped cream, which has obviously been used in the moment. As for how much cream was used, that's unknown, but it doesn't matter too much. It appears that from this angle, Jack, I think, maybe wearing some kind of necklace or chain. Noah Presgrove isn't wearing a necklace here, which is interesting. Of course, at the party which Noah attended, it was described and worded that he had it on him, and from the footage, it looked like he had it on him at all times. But, you know, as for little similarities, the fact that Noah is topless here shows it's normal for Noah to do that at different get-togethers, possibly, if you wanted to put that argument across at least. I think it's important to say, considering that Noah Presgrove, with the exception of the shorts, was found naked on the highway, no shirt whatsoever. If anyone was to say, well, that's a bit weird, well, at least you can say now, well, from different possible buildings and different possible times, Noah was known to be topless at get-togethers. Not that it's a big deal or it's not that deep, but it's just an observation at the end of the day. Though still, the concept of shorts, well, at least in this one, Noah is wearing them, unlike the highway, which people do find a little bit odd. Now, what's important to acknowledge is that's Jack Newton back there, Noah Presgrove's on the table. Look at how he's smiling, right? Laughing, joking, enjoying the moment, like it's fun, because it is fun to him, to them, just messing about as best friends. Shows somewhat of a healthy friendship relationship. I don't know if you would call it a relationship. Friendship, is a friendship a relationship? Can it be applied to that? I'm not too sure, because I'm not a big expert, to be honest, on all that. But it's positive. It's not negative. You look at the party which Noah was at, all the footage, what we've seen, has mostly been positive. All the hearsay, and even by possible witnesses, no public footage to back it up. It's unfortunate, isn't it? If it does exist, it would be good to see. Even if it's mild, even if it doesn't quite link to Noah's death, but it just shows a different side, a different mood, a different vibe from the party, it just fills it complete. So you get a better overall understanding of the environment and what it was like. And the timing of when the environment and the atmosphere changed. If it dropped, if it went cold, negative, tense, and that was more so towards the latter end of the party leading up to Noah's death or just walking away, it could link more. If the mood dropped much earlier or a day before, and then it built back up again positively, then it may not link the same way. But as said, when looking in the background, you do have a collection of cowboy-looking hats. Now, are any of them similar to what Noah and Jack were wearing in an old photo in the past when they were wearing women's clothing with dresses? If you remember that, with a straw hat and a white cowboy hat. maybe, could all link from the same building, the same place. So once you figure one location out from some footage, other footage could link to the same location. That TV, yeah, it's on the wall, a wall TV. Similar to the party house, which Kaden Pressey recorded or captured when panning around. Same positioning, but did we get bloody deers or elks, whatever you want to call them, as like trophies, wall mounts besides either side of the TV? No. So this would imply either a different time or just a different location altogether. The fact that there is a door behind as well, while Kaden Pressey would have been, if this was from the party house, Kaden was near to that TV, near to where the hats are. So it would have meant a door would have been behind Kaden, but from that point of view, from that party house, there wasn't a door behind Kaden, but off to Caden's left when panning around, there was the door, which was the main entrance way. So it implies that this is a different place. There is a guitar, an acoustic guitar in the background. Is that JJ Bump Ass? Probably not. But I just remember that clip, well, no, that photo which came about on Facebook of JJ with a guitar. But the only thing that stood out to me, besides the main thing, is in the background. Why is there a pop-up tent? Or why is there an actual tent back there? I mean, like people camping inside of the house. I mean, it can happen when playing about. Camping outside, backyard, setting the tent up, prepping it. But why inside, indoors? Testing to see if it works, if it's okay. Could be for numerous reasons. Is it a sleepover, a get-together? However you interpret it. Yeah, a camping trip, fishing trip, separate things, but I'm just reacting to it in my head in the moment raw. Do you think it's a bit unusual how you've got a tent in the background whilst Noah's getting licked off cream? It's a bit random, but, you know, things can happen. But you know what's more important is the headwear. You know, you got Jack bent over there up close. Jack's wearing a black and white baseball cap. Well, at the party, the actual one of the actual party house, Jack was wearing more of an orange baseball cap, so it makes it seem like this would have been from a different time, a different place. As I said, I'm just listing off the differences and similarities to build a case to say that this is old footage, this is different from the party. But if you are meant or led to believe or strongly believe that it is from the actual party house, and it all links, where you can give your explanation down below. I would argue and say that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Noah Presgrove's baseball cap does look similar to what he did wear at the party, but likely maybe Noah Presgrove just kept one hat or wore one hat often. It could have been around the same time, maybe a few months apart, a few weeks apart, a year apart maybe, but the hat of Noah's does look familiar, does look similar to what he wore at the party, the final party that Noah attended at the house near to Terrell. Whereas Jack's hat is a different colour. And at the party it was documented like Sunday evening, 10:50 onwards, Jack was wearing an orange baseball cap. Here, Jack is not. Whilst Jack did say in a text at 5:53 with his father Monday morning about someone messing with his hat, yeah, maybe he got another one. But no, he wouldn't. Because if he had another one, then there'd be no reason for Jack to say to his father, hey, can you pick up a spare one for me? Could you bring one of my hats to the lake for a meet-up because somebody messed with mine? Meaning Jack did not have a replacement on him at the time, so he wanted his father to collect one for him. So this likely means this was from a different party, a different time, a different location. My interpretation. I don't actually see any alcohol. There's like some sauce bottles on the table. Maybe some biscuits, possibly. That's pretty much it. I don't really see any indication of alcohol. Not every get-together has to involve alcohol, of course. But, you know, it's just trying to figure out similarities and patterns, and that's pretty much it for that. Onto this slide where you see where the whipped cream is at. So it appears, based on where Jack was actually licking the cream off, it appears to have been around or on the nipple area, which, yeah, I guess some people would find or think, ooh, that's a little bit cringy or a bit awkward. It might be from the outside perspective, but from the inside perspective, those who are in on it, as in participating, they don't seem too disturbed. Noah seems quite comfortable. Noah's laughing and joking, and so is Jack. It's not that deep or big. See, within this world, certain activities that take place amongst different people. On the inside, a joke may be understood, a practice may be deemed as normal, may be deemed as fine, but in the eyes of the general public, could be more taboo or something looked down upon. It all differs, of course, but there's quite a bit of whipped cream, but you can see the texture and the colour of it could have been mistaken when seeing that on Noah's back and near shoulder area from the party house footage, which turned out to be a white Sharpie pen, but it looked similar, the texture, so I thought it was cream. You can see that Noah Presgrove is wearing black shorts, supposedly, from here, right? So if someone saw this for the first time, saw Noah topless, saw that Noah was wearing a similar hat, saw that Noah was wearing black shorts, yes, you could think it's from the party, but it's not. And take in mind, sorry, I wasn't supposed to zoom in there, double tapped. You know, for the full context, that's what I saw, okay? When I say full context, as in the limited context at the time when it was shown in the past, it was a short clip from, I think, round this point. With that being in mind, it didn't show, I think, this angle, or more so it didn't show that angle. So at the time, I didn't get a proper view of the kitchen area, so I couldn't come to a definitive conclusion then, but I can, or get closer to it now, right? So that's why context is important, the full footage clip. Now, this appears to be uploaded onto a person's TikTok page, and they're called Braylon.but. Who is Braylon? Is it Brylan? Brylan Sweat, but spelt different? Or spelt the way it should be? Braylon. I mean, if it was Brylan Sweat, but spelt different, but then interesting familiar names, similar faces, friends, just at a different location. The more parties, the more get-togethers close to the final party of Noah that attended, the more frequent. It'd be interesting to monitor and measure the body language and behaviour. Why was that final party different? If there were same faces, familiar names, bonds and friendships, what was different on that final party compared to previous parties the weekend before, weeks before that, months before that? What changed ultimately? See, with the Dylan Rounds case and James Brenner the murderer, said in the past of, I think it might have been 2020 onwards, that Dylan Rounds and Brenner were actually staying in a camper or in separate trailers around the back of Dylan's mother's place whilst they were working elsewhere, doing custom farm work for someone for over 2 months. For over 2 months spent close together in proximity, working alongside one another, and yet Brenner never snapped and Brenner never killed Dylan back then, when that close. But then fast forward onwards to 2022, 28th of May, Brenner just happened to just snap on that one day and take it out on Dylan for whatever reason, and shoot him multiple times in the skull with a handgun. So it just goes to show the unexpected can happen. Other times in the past where times can be testing and things and bonds can be close, or you could be pushed, brunched together when you may not get on well normally or gel quite the same, or there's big differences between one another or age differences like there was in this situation. You could have expected it to happen sooner than later, but it didn't. It happened later. The unexpected factors take place. Just like if you're looking at it in a murder aspect with the Noah Presgrove case, you look at these familiar parties or familiar faces of other parties that have attended together. The atmosphere was positive and nice and fine and okay, maybe, to some extent, and then it applies to the final party which Noah attended. But then, shortly afterwards, cut short, something happened to Noah. If it's the same set of individuals responsible, there's got to be a very strong motive, a very strong factor to explain that sudden change up, unless it's similar to the Dylan Rounds case. With that being in mind, moving on to here is from The Party House, 1050. And this was on the third day, which would be the Sunday, 10:50 p.m, Sunday night. Kaden sat down. Yes, there is a table back there, but it's a very short, small one. There is supposedly another table on the other side of that sofa couch where Georgia in the white shirt is putting or drinking. Noah Presgrove holding something in his hand where he goes up to the table. I said it's not the clearest, but the hat, what Noah Presgrove is wearing there is probably the same one which he was wearing in this footage, but not from the same location or day. The hat that Jack Newton was wearing in the background, you'll see a clearer one later, is an orange cap. Well, it's not orange in that one, it's black and white, so different times from the looks of it. The kitchen area, as I said, you look at the size and the shape of it, it's not as open the plan there, and the colouring of the wood, where you look at the shine, the varnish, whatever you want to call it, hair, it's a bit of a darker tone and colour, and that big table. You don't see an island effect kitchen shape of countertops, whereas in some angles you will, maybe not clearly here, but you will from other angles when you look at the footage yourself. And with all these couches and chairs being about, there wouldn't be enough space for that table to be across, adjacent to the TV. And would they go to great lengths to move it all? Maybe, maybe not. This one is from Avery's TikTok page, and it was a part of a compilation video in which most of the footage did not link to the party and was irrelevant, but this one clip showed the party house. And how do we know? Because it does check out in terms of the tiling on the ground, going onto the carpet, bookshelf in the corner in the background. Jack is back there wearing his orange baseball cap, which just so happens to be the same one which he's wearing here Sunday night, back there in the background. So you could make the argument across and say this is more significant and could be applied more to the party, like with this, and it could be from Sunday night. It's definitely from the party house, but the actual date time is not given. It's just a part of a random compilation video. Very interesting if this is from the party which was used in a random compilation video, how it was just leaped in, just like that, slipped in, and managed to obtain it. But in terms of what people are wearing, in terms of tops, it might differ slightly to what's seen here, but people can change tops fairly easily, especially if you live at the house. You will have your own bedroom with your own clothing. Party-goer visitors and guests, well, they'll have limited clothing when they show up because they don't actually live there. They don't have the wardrobe with them. You can't quite see it, but in the background behind Jack, the TV is back there. And then the countertop to the kitchen is on the right there. You can see some beer cans or bottles. So it shows that there is sign of alcohol present here. Well, yes, it's been described as alcohol at the party. For most of the party footage, what we've seen, with the exception of the beer pong table in the background, there's not been clear, definitive photos or videos of people directly drinking the alcohol. You get what I'm saying? In the act of drinking it, or just the presence of bottles on the side and trash and rubbish. This video clip could have been used for last night to put the argument across. Did it need a deep clean? Was bleach needed on the carpet, to the tiling of the ground, to the countertops? Because even the countertops appear pretty clean and white. Maybe they just needed sterilising if people have been leaning and touching it. But yeah, at presence of alcohol. Familiar faces there. Carter is the one in the centre of the screen. Jack's in the back. Maybe Carlson Myers in the background. Can't make out the chairs, but that's blocked by the people there. There is a room supposedly back there. Don't know what it leads into, if it's the bathroom or not. We never got an answer about that. And then that chair as well up against the wall. But when you look at the different angles from the same place, Kaden Pressey looking towards the kitchen, person behind the camera looking towards where Kaden Pressey would be, but obscured by Jack in the background. So you get the idea of from each angle and point. And in terms of, as I said with this footage here, TV in the background followed by a tent and a table. Do we see any of that located here? Where the couch, the recliner chair, around that zone should be where that big table is across, adjacent to the TV, as Kaden pans to the side, but it's not there. And we don't see a big table present. And then that's what I was saying. I think it's even easier. It's much easier, to be honest, here, because whilst the TV is mounted higher up, this TV, what you see on the right, is actually on like a little table or a drawer, furniture, wood. Whereas what we've already seen back here, that's mounted on the wall ties, TV, flat screen upon the wall. It's not in Kaden Pressy's footage. So different TV, different fitting, different room layout, different location, different building, likely different party, different get-together, and at a different time, older footage. So does it make it completely irrelevant? In terms of the aspect of a party, the location, it makes it irrelevant and it debunks it. In terms of the connection and the closeness between Noah and Jack, that's still important because you can compare that to the party. And it seems there's a bit of a crossover in similarities there. And there's like a physical closeness with best friends. Would you anticipate the best friend or one another to do that to one another? And why do I say one another? Because it's not just the deaf aspect, but like how Kaden said he overheard. But Noah was yelling at Jack because Jack was flirting behind Noah's back with Noah's girlfriend. Would a best friend do that to a best friend? Best friend's girlfriend? Would any of that take place, really? Well, supposedly it happened there, but that's from Kaden Pressy's account. Are there any other partygoers that can back up Saturday night past midnight Sunday morning of Noah and Jack arguing over girl trouble? What's the true context? Is it similar to what Kaden Pressy states, or is it another misunderstanding? It's worth questioning, as usual, because the way it's gone in the case. So difference. Now, what we're transitioning on to next is a theory, a concept, an idea, what could have happened to Noah Presgrove, and I thought I'd just include it in today's discussions, just to catch up on. Posted recent time, what do you guys think of this theory? And take in consideration that it's a screenshot reposted on Reddit, but the original post photo is a comment which comes from Facebook. As for what page or post, I don't know of. Kelly Woods says, in my opinion, that's a good start by saying that. There was an argument between Noah Presgrove and a female and her boyfriend. Right, a female and her boyfriend. Well, out of all of the females that were at the party, how many of those females were in a relationship with a guy present, beside Carter Combs and Jack Newton? I can't really think of any, personally. If it was only Carter and Jack present, as in a relationship, boy-girl, male-female, then maybe this is who Kelly's referring to. But would it make sense, based on what we've heard, stated, or supposedly claimed as a possible accusation, if it's worded that way, or a fact, by the estate of Noah Presgrove, the family, the attorneys, the wrongful death lawsuit, which claimed that, with no time given, but at the party, Jack Newton, best friend to Noah, and Avery Howard, also known as Avery Combs, birthday girl, were having a verbal fight, yelling with or at Noah Presgrove. Right? That's been brought up officially. So when Kelly says, in my opinion, I think there was an argument between a female and her boyfriend, not far off there based on the wrongful death lawsuit. But then again, it depends when this comment was posted, before or after the wrongful death lawsuit. If it's before, it's understandable and it's similar. If it's after, well, then you should know that it's not supposedly a female and a boyfriend. It's more so an individual female that's the sister to, such as Jack Newton, who's in a relationship with the girl Carter Combs, sister to Avery, which could be considered the female's worded hair. Anyway, so Noah Presgrove may have went to walk away, and the male, whoever that be, grabbed Noah by the neck or the necklace, like, hey, come back. This broke the necklace that Noah loved, and then the fight was on. The fight all because of the necklace, because it was a precious gift, or more so, there was a bit more to it, as in there was a backstory, there was a grudge, there was tension, and it linked on with Noah walking away. trying to cool off so he didn't bring the mood down at the party, but because some male, followed Noah up and laid hands upon, Noah had enough. Kelly says Noah was getting the upper hand in the fight, so the female hit him with the golf club, probably much harder than she meant to. The adults are called and the cover-up begins. Well, if any adults... This is the thing. You say the adults were then called, as in what? Before that, no adults were on site, but technically adults were present at the party, which involved Noah Presgrove, Kaden Pressey, Jack Newton, over the age of 18, their ages being 19 or so. Maybe applies to Carter as well. Definitely applies to Avery, who was turning 22 at the time. So there were already adults on site at the party, some of the partygoers themselves, still under the legal age of drinking, but young adults because they've turned 18, they're over the age of 18, simple as. If you're talking about calling guardians, parents of the partygoers who are adults as well, but older in age, yeah, they could have been called and came on down to cover it up. But if that was the case, surely the phones would show call logs to the parents at such a time, which is eye-opening, and the police would have caught onto it by now. And even if phones may have been factory reset, there might be a way to retrieve those call logs and calls, and if not, maybe from the other end of the receiver to the calls, the parents, the guardians, possibly. And then Kelly says, in my opinion, they run his head and upper torso over with the side-by-side to stage the hit and run, and then move him to the highway. So it sounds like all of this has taken place as a theory and idea concept at the party house property, and more so outside of the house. Interesting. Before I add on with my own thoughts and map analysis, let's just see some of the responses by people. We've got Boss Babe, and some of you will be familiar with. I believe Boss Babe is the one that was okay, but then turned on me unexpectedly down the line. Beside that, I was in the background. Boss says, it's very plausible when Shirai, as in the divine individual, the card reader that falsely accused Warlight Wrath as being a bully, even though there's no hard evidence of that. Shirai did a spirit box session, supposedly. Noah said that a girl hit him with the golf club, and that's what made the 4-inch wide gash that scalped him to his skull. If any of that is true, and Shirai did a video in which that spirit box said that in the name of Noah, well then isn't it interesting that Alicia, when having a conversation with Justin Roy via Facebook Messenger, a private DM, Alicia said, well, in my opinion, I think one of the girls hit Noah in the back with a golf club and then ran away, and then other people finished him off. So in terms of differing opinions, different people at different times talk about the golf clubs. Different people at different times on different platforms refer to a female being responsible for whacking Noah over the head. So who is the true causation? Who is the catalyst, the origins behind all of this? Who started it off and created it in the first place? From what Boss Babe says here, supposedly Shirai, divinity or divine card reader, was the one that captured it, documented it, the supposed truth. But then Alicia was talking about it in her opinion. Was Alicia influenced by Shirai's video on YouTube, a spirit box session? Was Shirai influenced by what Alicia was saying in her opinion, or what Justin Roy was saying at some point in his opinion? Who started it first? Because it's a bit of a coincidence how these individuals individually are thinking the same way. There's got to be a crossover or an overlap. Let me know your thoughts down below. So besides being scalped on the skull, Noah said they came from behind and hit him with something heavy but not a fist. Right, that could be when he was hit with the side-by-side and why was eager to get rid of it after Noah's death. Right, so Boss Babe is saying about the possibilities of it being tied together based on Sheree's spirit box session and what Noah supposedly said in the session, possibly linking on to Jack Newton listing the side-by-side on the Facebook marketplace and being so eager to get rid of it because it's important evidence which was used in a cover-up with Noah Presgrove's death and so on, staging it as a hit and run. Well, I think what people forget is that listing on the Facebook marketplace did not sell immediately. I think it took a few months, quite a few months, until it was sold. Now, if you were trying to get rid of it as fast as possible and no one was biting at the hand to grab it up or buy it off you, then you might find other ways of getting rid of it or other ways of selling it on quicker and cheaper. But it wasn't done fast, it wasn't sold fast, so there wasn't urgency, there wasn't a rush, then maybe there was no reason to worry or panic because there was no reason for it to be linked with Noah's death. You could look at it like that as well. Anyway, Boss Babe says that could also explain most damage on the one side. Explain the side-by-side being seen by a passerby at about 5 in the morning, and explains the time that Jack Newton came busting in the door shouting that Noah was dead. Well, 15-minute time difference there based on Kaden's timeline. Kaden Pressey's timeline has been the most reliable and so far the most honest accounts of that night. Oh, no. Oh, goodness. What has gone on here? Now, yes, I've already done videos in the past bringing it up. I think some people may need to look back at them. Tim Daniel, I wouldn't blame you if you're drinking another drink right now after reading a comment like this. After all the months of the observations and giving counter evidence and hard evidence when comparing with Kaden's timeline compared to other people's points of views, this is, oh goodness me, where do we start? So Boss Babe is linking a stranger who witnessed a side-by-side on the highway at around 5 in the morning, jump out of nowhere, come out from the hard shoulder or so. That could have been the same side-by-side which was used to dump Noah's body off at the highway to then go back to the house, the party house, and let people know, and it was Jack behind the wheel, maybe, and anyone else. You could look at it that way, possibly. But at least from Kaden's account, it was Jack and only Jack that bursted through the door. So it must have been only Jack in that side-by-side if it's the one at 5 in the morning, if it's the one that stranger saw, the witness, in which Boss Babe thinks it all links together, and it may be the same side-by-side that was used earlier in running Noah over and also disposing of Noah, so it needs to be gone as evidence. But at the end of the day, Kaden said only Jack burst through the door. And then when Kaden, based on the 5:15 timeline, went to the highway at 5:21 arriving, it was Kaden, it was Brylan, Isaac, Mikey, 2 truckers, or 2 truck guys, put it that way, service truck and semi-truck drivers, apologies, and Jack, and that was it. No one else. So if Boss Babe wants to link it all together, it would mean that it was Jack in that side-by-side, which that passerby saw at 5 in the morning when going back to the party house, and it was Jack that disposed of Noah's body, and only Jack Newton, because there's no sign or acknowledgement of any other passengers, people on board, which Kaden saw, because Kaden didn't see anyone else, only Jack and the 2 truck guys, including Kaden himself and Brylan and Isaac, Mikey, that came for the first time. So I don't think you can link that all together there personally, based on how it's gone in the case. But, where Boss Babe had said about Kaden Pressey's timeline has been the most reliable. Kaden Pressey's timeline is one of the only timelines out there because other partygoers don't publicly speak. So you can't really compare Kaden Pressey's timeline quality or accuracy or reliability with anyone else when the depth isn't there to compare in the first place. That is a major mistake made already. This is very impetuous. Oh my goodness. Kaden Pressey's timeline, some form of timeline, that's good. Yes, of course. But it's not reliable. Why is it not reliable? because what Kaden says in the police interview of June 2024 greatly differs to the Parts in True Crime interview of 2024, July. Kaden Pressey to be honest, I don't know if I said I was going to do a map analysis or not when I was adding on with my additional thoughts with the original claim or theory idea, as in it taking place on the property and then moved onto the highway. But you know what I will do, just as a reminder, gather things back up. What Boss Babe says here about Kaden's timeline being reliable, well, let's compare it to the situation with the police and the Parts in True Crime interview, in which I noted it down and did some similarities and differences on Google Earth, just to reiterate it once again. Oh my goodness. Seth says, really, Spirit Box sessions, that's what you're going with? And Boss says, I'm going by what I've been presented. I was stating what was said in the session. It doesn't say this is what I am going to go with at all. We can all have an opinion and a theory, but even if you don't agree with mine, please do not come in a sub to be rude or disrespectful. So, Boss Babe, you're saying, in your opinion, Kaden Pressey's timeline has been the most reliable and the most honest. But Kaden Pressey, it's not a fact, it's just an opinion. Is that what you're going with, Boss? It's an opinion that Kaden's timeline is the most reliable. It's not a fact. If so, fair enough, that's okay. But facts are facts, and they don't lie, and the observations are present, and Kaden's timeline is inconsistent, and there are discrepancies based on what he said at one point compared to another time. There's no going around it. If you can't see it, you've got an emotional connection and an emotional bias towards Kaden because of first-time impressions of Kaden being positive, welcoming and respectful. But you take that, you embrace it, and then any mistakes made by Kaden, you look past it because you see the positives, you see the genuinity, the honesty and all that. You look past mistakes, lenient towards mistakes, and that's a very downward spiral fall, if I must say myself. Observations all. This individual. So, first and foremost, side-by-sides aren't that heavy. Even the largest, most tracked, out ones barely tip 3,000 pounds. And this was a smaller Ranger, probably less than half that. And then there was the autopsy report. There were no tyre tracks on the body. Some people on my channel said, depending how you're run over with a vehicle, it may not leave marks. But, I mean, if there was a hit and run, are hit and runs normally associated with track marks on the body? If so, and if it's possible, you would have expected a cover-up from a foul play in which they consciously make the decision to leave marks on the body. But the autopsy said no marks on the body. So, if you're trying to make it look as realistic and close to a hit and run, and if a hit and run can be consistent with track marks, why didn't they not do that then and run over the correct way? Interesting. Anyway, but I don't find this plausible for a number of reasons. If a scalp injury of that magnitude were to occur an hour or two before the proposed scenario, there would be more blood missing and injuries sustained after death will look very different. Autopsy notes that the injuries were sustained all at once and he would have died very quickly after they were sustained. There are no injuries consistent with being crushed, like if you were to run over a body in a vehicle. It's listed as multiple blunt force trauma, and according to multiple forensic analysts who reviewed the report, more consistent with being ejected from something at a high rate of speed, falling from a great height, or being hit by a large object going at the high rate of speed. As far as spirit boxes or psychics, there are whole episodes dedicated to how often those people are wrong, telling families someone is alive when they had been dead for months or years, and that someone was dead when they were still alive. Sylvia Brown has some notorious instances, and she was supposed to be famous for her accuracy. I put exactly zero faith in any of that. Fair enough. Okay. Countering points. And then this one was from, was it Fox News or one of the official news articles online, which was getting at Dr. Michael Baden, American physician and board-certified forensic pathologist known for his work investigating high-profile deaths, told Fox News that Presgrove's death is a terrible case and that the medical examiner's report revealed many details surrounding the night he died, even though it was the morning, though, Monday, not the night. In quotes, Noah had a lot of internal bleeding, so his heart kept pumping for a little bit after he was struck. But if there's a possibility that an ATV accident, he might have a punctured lung and was bleeding slowly, if that links to the side-by-side rollover. And then, as he's walking along the highway, the bleeding gets worse and he collapses. Now, the only counterpoint there is, why would Noah be walking down the highway? That's what I don't quite agree with. And then a truck hits him and causes all the injuries on that account. But that would a lot depend on what his condition was when he gets back to the party, Baden said, whether it's noticeable or not. As we saw in recent time, Tim Daniels suggested no, it could have been in the back of a moving vehicle, could have fallen out, impact and injuries caused that way on the highway, and that's how he was found to some extent. Then another driver in a truck or vehicle ended up colliding, clipping or hitting Noah, which caused the rest of the injuries, and Noah was left on the side of the highway hard shoulder. Multiple events, a series of them, all possibly accidental in some way or down to recklessness, and that's just how it is. But in terms of what Justin Royce suggested in recent time or brought back up, and what Kelly Woods is saying here, is that, yeah, an argument, some kind of tension, conflict, escalated, went too far. Noah was hit with a golf club, and that was enough to cause what exactly? And then Noah was run over with a side-by-side to stage it as a hit and run. But was that one club to the head an instant death? I find it hard to believe, and no offence, if it's a female doing the swing, not going to generate as much force or power as if a male was, and depending on who's using and wielding the club, an expert that knows how to use a club regardless of gender will generate more force and power behind that swing compared to an amateur that's never touched a golf club before. You've got to take that all into consideration. I don't think one whack would cause all that damage, of course. Do I think the second part of just a vehicle running over Noah's body to not leave any track marks behind, even though you want to stage it as a hit and run, vehicle-based death, is that going to cause the remaining of all the injuries? Maybe not. But the concept of falling out of a vehicle head first, head colliding with the ground, the spine, the vertebrae compressing and snapping or breaking in some way, and then some scrapes and hitting the ground, rolling a little bit, and then stopping, and then being finished off or overkill, because he's already dead, by a vehicle passing by, clipped to make him flick off to the side onto the side of the highway. That's another way of looking at it, as in causing the total injuries as a whole, right? But to some extent, the temporary small consensus is, whether you believe it's murder, foul play, or accident, there seems to be an agreement, as in there was multiple events to cause and lead up to the injuries altogether. It wasn't just one thing, even though supposedly the autopsy has stated it happened all at once, and if it happened all at once, then likely more so one event. But the general public believe multiple events over a course of time, close together or a bit spread apart. What we're looking at is, on the left in blue is from the police interview of June 2024, and then on the right is the Partners in True Crime one, all to do with Kaden Pressey. And you'd expect that there'd be consistency, but there isn't. And furthermore, when Boss Babe says, not as an opinion, not clearly, not as a fact, not clearly, could be left to interpretation. Boss Babe referring to the most honest and the most reliable, Kaden's timeline, and yet there is hard evidence that shows at the time of when Kaden described as being present at the highway with Mikey, well, at 5:27, Mikey wasn't there, but was at the house with the others, Logan, Jasmine, all laughing and joking and smiling, as if they didn't hear the news of Noah's death at that point, so likely later on, yet Kaden's saying it happened at 5:15, so major problem. Not seen any other counter evidence ever since, just a lot of whinging and whining of people saying, well, it's been edited, it's been faked and all of that, and that's not good enough. So just try and get a little bit back and forth. Kaden Pressey said on Saturday the party consisted of close friends only. On the Sunday there was 30 to 40 people present. Partners in True Crime, that's what Kaden stated. Well, in the police interview, Kaden said Friday to Saturday there was 40 people in total. Sunday, there was only 15 people present. So Kaden can't even get it right in regard to the number of people that were present on the said days. But actually Friday and Saturday consisted of more people than Sunday onwards, even though Kaden said in the Parts in True Crime one, Sundays when it heated up and more people came on down. But here, Kaden says there was only 15 people. So either the party heated up, more people came on down on Sunday onwards, or they did not. It's one or the other, and Kaden gives two different outcomes and statements. That's not reliable, boss babe. And to mention about Friday to Saturday, 40 people, well, we never really hear about Friday. And how would Kaden Pressey be able to comment on how many people that were there on a Friday when Kaden Pressey also said in the Parts in True Crime interview, in contrast to the police one, that I don't want to talk about Friday. We can't talk about Friday. What, because you weren't there? But it's interesting because it was mentioned by Alicia in some voice conversation, I believe, with Joyce Bergow, which I've summarised on my channel previously. And Alicia stated that Kaden Pressey, yes, got there, but it was almost past midnight. It was a Saturday, but almost past midnight. And yet Kaden in Parts in True Crime said, well, Saturday, the party there was all normal and fine. How would Kaden Pressey be able to comment on it? If his own mum says Kaden only got there late, almost past midnight. So Kaden wouldn't know how the party went throughout the day of Saturday if he wasn't there. He only got there when it was too late. Interesting, isn't it? But it was mentioned by, on the police interview about Friday coming into play when Kaden had arrived. I believe it was also mentioned in the text conversations to some extent, depending on how you interpret the language and wording of that as well. I think Kaden Pressey worded it as, well, Caleb Newton could have been at the party if he had been there on the Friday, early Friday. And that could be interpreted as, oh, well, because you were there Friday afternoon, evening then? It's all over the place, basically. Why do we say Kaden Pressey arrives Friday? Because in the police interview, it was going back and forth and Kaden was getting the dates and the events all over the place. Oh, did this happen on Saturday? Was it on Sunday? Did you go to Wairika on the Sunday? Well, supposedly that was the case, but then when you got back or when you were watching a movie or when buying alcohol, going out to get alcohol with the girls, was that a Saturday? Was it a Sunday? And it was back and forth, all mixed and muddled. It was confusing to understand. Basically, that's reality. So I wouldn't say that's clear or concise, personally. And a bit about Kaden arriving on Friday. Well, the police said, when were you there? Saturday? We there Friday? You could have been there Friday. And Kaden was saying, yeah, I was there Friday. So what does that mean? Kaden in Parts in True Crime public interview says, don't want to talk about Friday, can't talk about it. But yet Kaden in the police interview a month before or so said to police, yeah, I was there Friday. It's not consistent, is it? And as well, Kaden Pressey said Saturday, Noah Presgrove wrestled Mikey Lair outside. But it's been agreed upon within the community ever since that Mikey Lair had only got to the house, even Justin Roy has said it, on a Sunday onwards. Mikey Lair was not present at the party Saturday. And yet Kaden Pressey said it was Saturday when Noah was wrestling Mikey. That's not exactly consistent, is it? Not a good look. The mention of Saturday/Sunday staying at the house with girls and watching a movie. Well, in Parts in True Crime, that can be interpreted as Sunday after breakfast, after the Wairika gas station, being dropped off back at the house with the girls, Kaden. The rest of the guys going back out. Yeah. But in the police interview, Kaden worded it as in Saturday or Sunday, so it's not exactly clear. And then the mention of later going to the store for alcohol, not clear either. 12 p.m, Noah Presgrove argues with Jack. Ever since, and how it's been worded, and what we've seen by Kaden, and the mention of Noah yelling at Jack because Jack going behind Noah's back, flirting with Noah's girlfriend, seems consistent with the 12 p.m. claim because it was described as past midnight. Kaden described it as past midnight going into early Sunday morning. So that's consistent there, at least. Sunday, Kaden, Jack, Brylan, Isaac, Noah shooting animals on land. That's, yeah. Cousin arrived. Sunday or Monday, all asleep, but Colton, Newton, Travis Monson and a skinny guy returned to the house to steal alcohol, and that's what Kaden said in the police interview. Did not acknowledge it in the Partners in True Crime interview, and that's why we've not transitioned on over to the other side, because the Partners in True Crime interview is a bit more limited compared to the police one, as you would expect. But the consistency still isn't there, because you know what the problem is? Kaden Pressey said to police either Sunday night going into Monday morning when Kaden was resting, was woken up or half asleep, and he saw Colton, Travis and a skinny guy either Sunday night or Monday morning returning to the house. Kaden Pressey said in his own words back in 2023, I believe it was around October 17th onwards, Kaden said back then in a Facebook Messenger conversation, private DM, that with Colton and Travis arriving at the party, that was on a Saturday. And whilst there, Travis was supposedly making girls feel uncomfortable, picking them up, putting them on countertops, and being very rude to them. That Colton and Travis did steal alcohol as well whilst there, and then they left. And then they returned back on the same day, Saturday, but in the evening. And shortly after, Jack confronted him and said, "You need to leave," for one reason being stealing alcohol. And they left. And they did not return back the next day or the day after. That was said by Kaden Pressey. Yet Kaden says in 2024 it was on a Sunday or Monday. Is it understandable that maybe Kaden got mixed up with the days? Yes. Because what was said in 2023 was more fresh in memory. What was said in 2024, not as fresh. But did Kaden acknowledge it to the police interview in 2023 compared to the 2024 one? That's unknown of. But still, the consistency isn't quite there. Monday, 1:30 in the morning, Kaden films Brylan slap Noah. That's what Kaden Pressey gave as for the timestamp at the time. The general public were quick to jump at me and said, "You got it wrong, Graf, you got it wrong." No, I didn't. I was just being consistent with what Kaden was saying originally and stating 1:30. It was proven and shown, and by the default gallery and the original video of the timeline, or whatever you want to call it, did show 1:05 in the morning. So Kaden Pressey got the time wrong. Yes, mistakes can be made, but a mistake is a mistake and it's inaccurate. It adds to the tally. It's an accumulation of it. That's all, right? 2 to 3 in the morning, Jasmine Millan said to Kaden that Noah Presgrove walked off, but no search was done. 2 to 3 in the morning, is that the same one as 3:30? Well, it's different times, but to say between 2 to 3 in the morning can be an estimate. At the latest, 3 in the morning, but that's 30 minutes off the true time when Noah walked away. So it could be that Noah walked away 2 occasions. Once, the first time, returned back, second time, did not. But why do it so often? 2:40 in the morning, side-by-side rollover, Noah Presgrove hurt. That's what Kaden Pressey said. He saw a video, or he saw a photo from a video, but was able to describe it as a video in a sense, because Kaden described it that the guy or a person who recorded it and then showed to Kaden at a later point, different time, walked up to Noah and they were laughing and joking, and Noah had a bloodied nose, supposedly. Alicia, I believe, said that Noah had a bloodied lip. So the injuries do differ, but the area on the face is somewhat similar. 2:40, how reliable is that from what Kaden says? Well, Kaden said he saw the time stamp of it on screen, but that time stamp could have been from the screenshot taken at a later point of a retrospective snap, which was not real time, meaning it's not true to the correct time. 2:40 could be the timestamp of the phone screen when the person used their phone to take the screenshot of the snap that was uploaded from the original footage on a different device. That's one way of looking at it, possibly. Because 2 minutes after 2:40, 2 minutes later, Noah is inside with Jasmine and Jack near a beer pong table. Kaden Pressey's woken up because of that at 2:42 because of Alicia calling, and the call logs prove that from Alicia's point of view about taking Georgia back home, already in possession of her. So Alicia's claim of 3:15 is absolute bollocks and not true. 2:42 already underway. Kaden Pressey sees Noah stood about. No urgency in having a wash, shower, dirtied or bloodied, so that 2:40 claim of the timestamp is probably wrong. Next one, 3:20 in the morning, Kaden Pressey assumes he saw Noah alive and present, but wasn't actually physically in sight, line of view. That says a lot. Then went back to sleep. So Kaden Pressey is saying he went back to sleep at 3:20 in the morning. Interesting. About 10 minutes before Noah had walked off. So did Kaden not see the teabagging or the ramen noodles with Noah being fed in the kitchen area? Short space of time from when Noah walks away. Very interesting. Jasmine and Carter Combs washed Noah Presgrove, told after 6 in the morning. Is that so? Yeah. Okay. 3:41, Jasmine Milan shirt wet. That's consistent there. 5:15, Jack announces Noah's death. Consistent with the parts in True Crime one. 6:30, question mark, because I don't think the time was given in the police one, but in the parts in True Crime it was stated by Kaden that it was 6:30, but did not acknowledge time in the police interview, which is interesting. Sometimes given in an informal interview, sometimes not given in the professional interview setting with the police, maybe because not too sure with the times, so no point in giving false times. But other stuff's inconsistent. How does that compare, Bod, with the parts in True Crime one, as we said? Well, Ken said he arrived Saturday. Oh, not Friday? Inconsistent. Sunday goes to Warwick with friends for breakfast, returns to the party with the girls only. Afternoon shooting animals, the same, similar. Returns to the house when dark. Overheard Noah wanting a shower, and that was some point Sunday night. 10:30 p.m, cousin arrives, Kaden sobers up, supposedly. Noah asked Kaden for a lift home. 2 in the morning, Kaden sleeps. 2:42, Kaden wakes up. 3 a.m, Kaden said he went back to sleep. Well, that's a big inconsistency. 3 in the morning, Kaden said he went back to sleep. Yet in the police interview, Kaden said 20 minutes later he went back to sleep. A 20-minute time difference is major and is extremely important, that time discrepancy, because the later Kaden went to sleep, the closer it is to when Noah was going to walk away. And before 3:30, in between 3:20 and 3:30, what happened in that span of time? If we knew when the shower took place, you could compare that with what Kaden may have seen, saw or heard at the time of when he was still awake before going to sleep at 3:20. Interesting. Kaden says he was woken up at 2:42 in the parts in True Crime interview, but in the police interview it was stated by Kaden that he woke up at 3 in the morning. Well, that is wrong, because Alicia's call log proves that she called Kaden at 2:42, and Kaden has acknowledged that in at least the parts in True Crime interview. So what Kaden was telling the police wasn't entirely true or accurate compared to what he said in parts in True Crime. That's unfortunate. And with Kaden telling somewhat of the truth at a later point compared to the month before, it doesn't follow the same mindset of, as time goes on and trauma, you forget things. It's kind of like forgetting some stuff, remembering some things later, but at odd times and all over the place. So it's a bit of a messy situation there, and that's just some of the discrepancies, right? Now, in terms of the mention of golf clubs, an argument, Noah Presgrove walking out, a male and the male's girlfriend. I don't think that's possible from what Kelly Wood or the Wood was saying, because the wrongful death lawsuit on behalf of the family and the attorneys are suggesting or bringing up that, yes, there was a verbal argument, which may or may not have escalated, and it did involve a male and a female on there, but it wasn't boyfriend-girlfriend, it was Jack Newton and Avery Howard, birthday girl, both having a go at Noah. For what reason exactly? Well, I've done my videos already suggesting the possibilities, and maybe from there things could have escalated. So from that person's point of view and theory, a girl getting a golf club, it might have been Avery then. Would Avery have a right to do so? Doesn't justify it enough, but Avery being screwed over before, second best option to Noah, the bedroom debacle there, sleeping with her but choosing Logan over her first. May feel disrespected, being called a fat bitch, supposedly, feeling disrespected and embarrassed. For some reason, earlier, Avery being frustrated, was it Sunday morning or at some point, coming across Noah and Logan sleeping next to each other on the floor, and Avery supposedly said, if I find out you've done anything, I'm going to kill you. And then what? Noah ends up dying later. You could all link it together to put an argument, a theory across based on that, and a theory only. Okay, fair enough. But would one whack be enough to cause all those injuries? No. Would one whack be enough to kill Noah completely? Probably not. So would Noah still been somewhat conscious and alive? Possibly. Does it link to Alicia's suggestion of a girl whacks Noah on the head and then runs away?
Well, it's similar to what this Facebook person has said, and it's also similar to what's been recreated by Boss Babe on behalf of Sheree Divinity. So interesting how it's all crossing over. Who influenced who and who started it off first? That would be interesting to know. Depending where the argument took place, the verbal fight could have escalated, could have gone wrong, but all happening on site of the property. If so, a clean-up would needed to be done immediately before police get down, right? Would there have been any sign, indication of wetness, wet patches, and enough of that to justify it? Only Kaden Pressey was the one to say about there was a wet patch on the porchway area, the step, just a bit where you'd stand where Jasmine took a selfie snap at 3:41. That wet patch could have been caused by vomit, could have been caused by leakages, bodily fluids, could have been caused, not blood, could have been caused by vomit, could have been caused by alcohol spillages, could have been caused by a cooler and ice falling out, being spilt slightly, if anyone was in a rush or messing about. Could be anything, possibly. If there was more wet patches about and further afar, but on site of the property, you could put that across and point out as in a stage, a cover-up. But in terms of the side-by-side possibly running over Noah's body after Noah's already dead or half dead or so, or on the way of death, would that have taken place on the highway, or would it take place on the party house property to run over the body a few times? It just seems kind of a bit dark and twisted if you used to put it across that way. As in, it wasn't meant to happen. It wasn't meant to be put that way. That it just went too far, wasn't planned in the moment, but then people then locked on and thought, you know what? It was an accident. Gone wrong, didn't mean it, no harm in that sense. But now we need to do overkill. Now we need to desecrate the body of our best friend. Now we've got to do all of that. Are those partygoers capable of doing such actions like that? Have we seen any evidence, any previous examples of same-said individuals doing something similar to another person? Well, there was that claim by a former local that said their friend or a boy that they knew of, and that boy was related to a certain female partygoer, and that guy saw something he wasn't supposed to at a different location and months, years before, and was beaten up by the same guys that beat up Noah Presgrove, supposedly. A lot of storytelling, I know. Any hard evidence? No. Sam, you base it off that, and I know someone said, well, you got these partygoers, dual welding, golfers, golf clubs going about beating people up, senseless, left, right, centre, getting away with it. Is it that possible, or is it hard to believe? You let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Kathy Bingham was the one to say Noah Presgrove was killed on the front porchway, taken round the back, where the side-by-side was, loaded up, and then taken down to the highway to be dumped off. So there's different ways of looking at it, but it seems like there is at least one consensus, as in multiple events leading up to the total injury sustained, accident or foul play. Some interesting discussions and analysis today. Hopefully enough people were able to find this video, because I know in recent time things have dropped off, but the focus has still remained locked on. The body language is something we've not really been able to assess as with party goers, because when it comes to like interviews, police related ones have not been public, and the typical type of true crime cases, what you normally associate interviews with, just aren't quite present in this particular case, or it hasn't reached that stage. So you can't check to see if anyone's lying or telling the truth. But you can't really do body language naturally in the moment at the party, because there's only limited footage. There's not too much to compare with, and you need the appropriate day, the date of Noah's death and leading up to it on that day, to compare with the atmosphere, and we don't have that footage public. Because Kaden Pressey's point of view is Sunday. Kaden Pressey recording outside Monday. Did Kaden Pressey record inside of the house onwards? No, because he was resting and asleep and so on. Anyone else's point of view recorded it though. Who knows? But it's like, you just can't compare. Even though Boss Babe was saying how, compared to other people's timelines, Kaden's is the most accurate, consistent, and honest. You can't compare Kaden's timeline
with other people's which aren't publicly visible or in the same depth as Kaden Pressy's. Just not possible. Unless you was to refer to Jack Newton's timeline. But I think Jack's timeline of, well, was it 11:30 going to sleep with Carter, but then it changed to 1 in the morning, then it changed to 2 in the morning, and then a few other times given here and there. You can't compare Kaden Pressy's timeline with Jack Newton's timeline, because Jack Newton's timeline is a collection of second-hand claims and talk by other partygoers that were reminding Jack of when he went to sleep or when he woke up, what other people did in between when he was asleep, what others were doing. Like Carter in the room when Jack was asleep, but Noah walked in and took the keys. Jack wasn't awake for it, and yet Jack was talking about it as if he was conscious at the time, but he wasn't. He was told it by Carter, just like how Jack was told by Jasmine other stuff and so on. Kaden Pressy's timeline is Kaden's timeline, what he saw or what he's supposed to have seen and heard, which is good, first-hand. Jack Newton's timeline isn't even a first-hand timeline, so you can't compare. And other people's timelines, they're just really non-existent publicly. You can't compare. All we can compare with is Kaden's 2024 June police interview timeline with the Partners in True Crime interview timeline and the part 2 of Kaden's interview with Partners in True Crime. That's it. Can't really compare it with anyone else when there's nothing to compare with, when it's not publicly accessible. Got to make that very clear. So comparisons aren't always possible, but the comparisons what we did today in terms of the party house and a house where Noah and Jack was at, it seems pretty clear that it's a different location, a different time, and it doesn't link. But in terms of Noah and Jack being friends, messing about, laughing and joking, how it appeared there, that body language and behaviour is similar to the party, such as in the morning of Monday, 1:50, Noah and Jack close together, smiling, all fine and calm. It's about looking at the relationships, the connections, the friendships and the health of it all. Still, as nice and positive as it can be, people can turn on you unexpectedly in a cold way, and it's not good. Did that happen to Noah Presgrove? Some people could suggest that, yes. But other people have said it's really hard to believe, and even Robin Smith at a later point said it's hard to believe that Noah's friends could possibly do that to Noah, considering how well they know each other, how well they get on well, how good the party was and the atmosphere and the positivity there. And just like with this older clip, what we've seen today, the positivity, the body language and the connection. And it might get to that point, and it probably already has done in the past, where people talk about it in news articles, Noah's best friend, Jack Newton, coming together as friends, long-time friends, known together, right? One person's name, the other person follows, grouped together, familiar with and familiar to the general public, such as with the case, a microcosm. Similar in alternative ways to like how people are familiarized with one person, name normally associated with the other in the same sentence, with credit to on YouTube and the people in the comments, which is appreciated and positive, how if I'm present or if someone lets on to me, hi there, they mention my name, but they also mention Strawberry's name in the same sentence, like how a few people have done. And the influence and the effect it has is strong and positive, even when strangers come along that don't actually know who I am or Strawberry, but still group the two names together as one in a sentence as together. Just like how Noah Presgrove's name can be coined and associated with Jack Newton and vice versa because they're known to get on well together as friends in that situation separately, but just that connection based, the chemistry between people. That those that may observe Jack and Noah body language before and after, they can see that they're best friends and they get on well. With the exception of those arguments, of course, in the background, but we've not seen hard evidence of it. The only hard evidence what we've seen has been mostly positive, so, you know. So sometimes just in general, people can associate one name with another person even without thinking or knowing too much if they sense a connection as an observation outwards towards two people out there, just like how it can be like in the live chat when people see me or when people see Strawberry, names are connected together. And especially when during live streams when Strawberry ends up leaving some nice comments along the way when I read them out. And for some reason, when it's live and in the moment, my body ends up malfunctioning and then I don't respond back as coherent, which, oh goodness me, but I at least can coherently speak crystal clear right now. For example, Strawberry, a very important person in my life, and Strawberry, yes, I'm talking to you, Strawberry, I love you. I love you a lot. So with that being in mind, with the case of Noah Presgrove, where it's at right now, people may think not enough progress, not enough new news. And a few people have said that and come to my channel in recent time, and some have questioned, why do you continue? Why the constant daily coverage? Have people not heard of Michelle After Dark? Have people not heard of Harsh Reality? Have people not heard of Betty Bullhorn, or whatever the hell she's called? Have people not heard of JLR Investigates and other creators and true crime people out there? Have you not heard of all those individuals that do almost day-to-day daily coverage, and some do it on the same exact case over and over again? You look at Harsh Reality, has made over 1,000 videos on the Idaho 4 case and started in 2020 or 2021 on YouTube, right? Michelle After Dark, over 800 videos on either the Summer Wells case or the Sebastian Rogers case. So all these other creators out there that do the same thing, but if not greater, and do more videos because there's just a lot to work with, how come they don't get criticized or questioned the same way as me? Is it because they're a bigger channel so they can be excused in some way and people will bow down? But when it comes to me, oh, different treatment like usual. Very interesting. The reality is, I do what I do based on what I can and what's possible, and day-to-day coverage allows keeping the case alive. But it also allows that even when the videos may not be good enough to some people, it still provides a platform, a comment section, a live chat for people just to hang out and share new ideas and thoughts. It's because of my live premieres which led to Robin Smith speaking out and giving some interesting updates along the way and backstory, which has been used ever since by other people out there that may criticize my channel. It was me and my channel and platform that allowed Kaden Pressey to come together with JJ Bumpaz that time, and those very interesting comments which I documented and archived as well because of my platform on the channel itself, opening that up. So I think it's very important for that day-to-day coverage because it also keeps the case alive. And secondly, if I have a range of different ideas to cover the case and look at, then it's just what I do, simple as. If it runs completely dry, well then there doesn't need to be coverage at that point. So it's weird, the interpretations by people, isn't it? So with that being said, have there been any other questions along the way? Can't think on the top of my head, but I say it's been a bit more active in recent times, surprisingly. But beside that, there are still some things to cover here and there, at least one other video ahead, which I can think out of. And then maybe a recap, but in a different style in regard to Paul Poucher and that whole bleach situation. Look at it up close. The reference to the dogs, show actual footage of possible dogs with footage. There we go. Maybe 2 videos or so to come up, be on the lookout for them, and then we'll see where it goes from there. As I said, people like to say that there's not enough progress, movement, or especially in these daily update videos, what's really going on? Only an ignorant, impetuous human that's not gone through and failed the pre-operational stages, concrete stages of development as a child would say that, because the reality is there are observations to some extent within the case or within the community, I make that clear. There's changes in human behaviour which can be quite shocking, and true colours are shown, as demonstrated in recent time by Justin Roy and the attitude there. And there are other little updates here and there. And updates as in never seen before party footage a few months ago, and Victor Presgrove setting the record straight. That's breaking news. I think not everybody watches all the videos, so they're not going to see that breaking news and the true updates. They'll only see the smaller updates and think it's not good enough. So if you don't know the full picture, you might need to look, listen, relearn and think beforehand. With that being said, appreciate those that have watched. If you want to hit the thumbs up, feel free to do so. If you want to like the video, share it, that'd be appreciated, and we'll see where it goes from there. My name's Warlike Raf. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, good night.